אהלן, ערב טוב, ברוכים הבאים למפגש השני שלנו. אני מורן, דרך אגב, מגיק טיים. רגע, אני מיד אעבור לאנגלית. The Hebrew message will be followed in English one. אז כמה מילים רק בעברית. קודם כל תודה ליניב ותודה לאביחי על האירוח כאן של הגיקטוק השני שלנו. אני מקווה שיהיה לנו עוד הרבה כאלה. זהו, אני מורן מגיק טיים, אז מי שרוצה יכול לדבר איתי אחרי זה, אם אני לא אהיה שיכורה. That's it. So this meetup would be in English because we have special guests from Yahoo, and that's it for now. So I want to give the mic to Iris Shoor. Bye bye.
I'll just use it like this. So, hi everyone. I think that all of us were very honored to be on the top 10 marketeers in Israel, and we're very honored to have you here today. And the main focus today is going to be on the first steps startups are. Can you hear me well? Okay. How about now? Okay, thanks. Yeah, better. So the main focus today is just about the initial steps that of marketing. How do we reach the first users? Is it possible to do marketing without a budget? And I think what is going to be very interesting today is that all of us are coming from very different companies, but especially coming from very different marketing disciplines. So I'm representing B2B and content marketing, and we have PR and bloggers and word to mouth, and so I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. And the first question that I'm going to ask each one of you today, and I would like you to introduce yourself and to tell us about the main challenge that you're using today. So just to understand where most of the traffic of your company is coming from today, and if you can tell us a bit how you gain this traffic and what you do in order to leverage the channel.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Liat, and I'm one of the co-founders of 24Me. We're developing a virtual personal assistant, something that you all dream about. Maybe saw it in here, not exactly, but so it connects to your real life, automates everything around your day-to-day life, and also have a kind of a do engine that takes care of things for you. So as for the question about major traffic sources that we have today and we use, first of all, in marketing is tightly related to the product itself. So when you think about marketing strategy, it just needs to be tied all the time with the development of the product. So you can't distinguish between them, and one of the jobs of us as marketers is also growth. So I think that we were fortunate that the first time that we launched 24Me, the first day it was featured by Apple, and that's something that drove a lot of attention, a lot of traffic. It was chosen as one of the 10 essential productivity apps on the US App Store, and still. So that's something that really helps. So my first start as the marketing manager at 24Me was like I was lucky because I had that, and once you have that, you get a lot of organic coverage also from lots of technology bloggers. That also the first users, which are the most advanced users, the early adopters. So in that respect, we still get a lot of traffic from that, and on a daily basis, we get a lot of coverage, organic one. As we progress over the time, I started to maintain relationship with the press and work with them, and that's something that probably going to tell in the future. What was the main thing, or you want us to tell it now? What was the main thing that we've done?
Here, and if you can tell the people here, how did you get to be on the main page of the App Store? Because that's like the number one question. Did it just happen, or did you do something?
So we didn't do anything. We just launched a product and submitted to the App Store. In the first, few months, as a bootstrap company, we're developing literally from the baby's room. So, we had no connection to the management of the App Store in California, Cupertino. So anyways, I think it's all related, as I mentioned at the beginning, in the product itself, in the uniqueness, and how do you manage to be on top of the noise that you have. You have millions of products out there. I think that it's very important when you submit your app. It's not related to marketing, but it's very important to know that you need to write a very thorough description also when you apply and say what's very unique in your product. And that's what we did. And it was one of the first personal assistant out there, so it really stood out. So that helped a lot. Something else?
Hi, I'm Hillel Fuld, CMO of a company called Zula. You might be familiar with the chairman. Jeff Pulver is the chairman, and we recently launched maybe 8 months ago at TechCrunch Disrupt. And my answer to that question is very different than I assume yours and most of the people here. And then I have a little of an issue with the question, because I don't think, if we're talking about marketing, that it needs to be measured in necessarily traffic. When it comes to apps, when it comes to whether you're a mobile property or a web property, generating traffic is, I wouldn't say simple, but there are ways to do it. Again, if you want, downloads, use TapJoy. There are ways to acquire customers. There's ways to get traffic. The problem is retaining that traffic and retaining your users of your app and keeping them interested. And the way to do that is marketing and not sales. And the way to market, in my opinion, is by providing value long term and long before you need those users. How do you provide value? I'm a big fan of content. I write blogs, for guest blogs on Mashable and GigHome and Business Insider, and just provide content as often as I can. And I believe that that's the way to do marketing today, and to rise above the noise. To acquire customers, there are ways to do it. But if you provide value consistently, without trying to necessarily measure it in immediate ROI and traffic, I believe that the users that you do acquire will be much higher quality and will remain users for a longer period of time.
Hi everyone, my name is Dvir. I'm head of marketing at an ad tech company called JustAd. Moving along soon enough to another company. I'm here probably primarily because of the work I've done 2 years ago, I think, at Onavo, now a Facebook company. And to follow up on what Hillel said, generating traffic is obviously something that all of us, especially if you have an app, whatever store it is, you can buy users, obviously, at any time, but retaining and maintaining those users are your number one priority. What we did at Onavo back in the day, which was under my realm, was actually all the, what we like to call customer care, or in Israel it's called support. When Onavo first launched, it was a very different app than what usual people are used to. Because it didn't just install on your device, you had to do another step, another process of installing a profile, which actually created sort of a VPN network on your iPhone, which was the first commercial app to do that, aside from IT managers and stuff. And it wasn't that clear. And more often than we'd hoped, it literally blocked all traffic, and you couldn't get calls, you didn't have data, and we had some issues around that. And we had a very good customer care team, led by me and a bunch of people from the product, and we really answered each and every question that we got from users in rapid times. And because working with your phone is probably the number one thing that you do, and if you can't do it on your phone because an app blocked you, that's probably not a good way to start. What generated out of that excellent customer care is that one of our first users was actually a researcher for the BBC. And he was a researcher at a program called Click, which is, I don't know how many of you watch BBC on channel, whatever it is, on Yes or Hot. It's a very, very very popular show in the UK, and it airs live on, I think, this Saturday, and it has reruns on the weekday. And at the end of the day, I think it was like 3-4 months after we launched in April, all of a sudden we had like this massive spike in downloads from the UK, which actually surpassed any other country that we had until that day. And it was all because of that single researcher, which got tremendous amount of help from us, from our support team on the first day that we launched. And that's basically not the secret sauce, but it's just to show you that every customer and every user is important, even if it's someone that you don't know. And obviously today you have many more methods of understanding who are you talking with. There is reportive, there is, you can just type someone email on LinkedIn and see who he is, but it really doesn't matter. If there is a customer that is using your product, that is sending you a support question, then it's really your number one priority to get him the answer that he's looking for and possibly convert him to being your advocate. So that's my lesson to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Lerner, and I'm heading product and marketing for EatWith, a community marketplace for authentic dining experiences. I have to say I agree with everything that's been said here in the panel. To do good marketing for your product, you need to have luck, and that's very important. But you also need to know how to leverage that luck to your advantage. You need to understand the channels that fit your product. Not everything necessarily fit your product. But I think the most important thing is that you need to generate value. People are not just going to use your product just for the sake of using it. It needs to give them some type of a sense of more than just a specific product. When it comes to a product like EatWith, I have to say it's very challenging because we're, I don't know how many people are familiar with what we do, but we're basically open a door for you to a stranger's home, and you get to eat dinner with them anywhere you want around the world. And to get people to think to even do something like that, they're thinking, well, that has to be crazy, you know, who goes into a stranger's home to eat dinner? But apparently we were able to get people to do that and to get people to hear about it. And I think it starts with, for us, to understand that the most important channel for us is word of mouth, to have a few people to start coming to this event and to see that the experience is something very different, very unique, and something that we really all want to have to get to know people around us. And then there was luck involved. Obviously we got to be on the stage on TechCrunch, and you need to be lucky to get in. But it was also a calculated luck, because we wrote a really good application to be there. Like, you wrote a really good application for the app to go on the App Store. So you need to know how to tell a really good story. And then once we were on TechCrunch, we leveraged that PR for, it's been a year now. So we're still leveraging that PR. We're still getting, articles and newspapers almost every single day around the world. So I think it really is a combination of everything. And I believe that every person that goes on EatWith and enjoys a meal feels that he's doing something not just only unique for himself, but he's actually helping change the world, change the way we live today, and change the way we use technology, not to go apart, but actually together.
Hi, I'm Marina Boykis, and I work at BillGuard. I'm the community manager of BillGuard, and I don't know if you've heard of BillGuard a bit, but essentially it's a personal finance app. Small company, really. Don't ask me that. But right now, it's based, our market is focused on the US, and I think that's also something that I want to share, because I was just talking to an entrepreneur today, and he was saying, my idea is so great, I want to spread it everywhere, everyone's going to love it, I just find it too hard to narrow it down. And I can say on our end, it's hard for me managing a community where people from all over the world want to use our product, and in Israel, people want to use our product. But I think you really do have to focus, make it tailored to a specific niche. And for us, that's the US right now, and we're slowly rolling out to Canada and Australia. And anyway, it's a personal finance app that essentially uses data to save you money and puts the control in your hand in terms of managing your credit cards, alerts you to fees, bad charges, as well as has some interesting budgeting features. And our company's been around for a few years now, and I guess what I'd want to share to you as you're trying to promote your app are the things that have really worked for us. So we've also been featured in the app, in Apple's App Store, and that was through a relationship. Our CEO developed a relationship by finding connections to get to the right person. You know, we're all Jewish, a lot of us. It's a small Jewish world. You can find connections, and you know, sometimes luck can be created, but it's like everyone has said here, it's not just about being lucky, it's having something great that you put in their hand and telling a story of why Apple should basically promote you. So the lesson in why we were promoted was because we had Apple features. We had features in our product that Apple wanted to showcase because they were very specific to Apple. If you're going on Android, you want to do the same thing as to what Google will want to feature. Another thing that worked for us is we were also in TechCrunch Disrupt. It's having, learning how to tell a story and have people buy into your mission. Why, you know, people sitting in the audience at TechCrunch bought into the BillGuard idea, and that's how we got our initial users, and it went from an alpha product to a beta, and etc. What else has helped us? I can talk about press. So we were in the New York Times, and we were also in a technology blog called iMore. So you think the New York Times, like the #1 paper in America that's respected, would get us way more users than a technology blog, and it didn't. Because the New York Times reporter doesn't use our app, but the technology blogger does. So when she writes about our product, it makes a difference. That passion comes through in her writing. And so that's another tip that I'd want to share that worked for us. It's not just about pitching to bloggers, but it's really trying to get a blogger, just one blogger at a legit place to use your product and to enjoy it. And then their writing will bring way more users than any, you know, TechCrunch piece or anything like that that's just quickly changed over. And then the other thing is today in our state, we use primarily paid ads to bring most of our users. And I'd say the way you do that in a smart way is by having, we brought in a data scientist who has really mastered the data, and she is growing our user base also through a low CPA. And that's how you do it.
Okay, so I'm a co-founder at Takipi. It's a B2B company, and we're building tools for Java developers to help them understand the production code. Marketing was very challenging at Takipi because I came from a different company, my first startup, where we built an app for architects and designers and engineers. And over there, most of the traffic came from PR and blogs. And when we just started Takipi, I think it was like day number 3 or number 4, I decided I'm going to map all the blogs for developers, and I had this like huge spreadsheet. And after 5 hours, I found 3 blogs. And then I understood that I had to come up with a different, innovative idea. And what we do at Takipi is content marketing. So we write a very good blog. All the developers write content. Everyone in the company involved in the blog one way or the other. And about 90% of the signups today come from the blog. It's very interesting because after the A round, we had enough money for advertising, and still around 90% of the traffic is coming from the blog. And it's really amazing that we had signups and installations from companies like eBay and Airbnb and Expedia, which came from the blog itself. So these companies read the blog, moved on to the Takipi website, and installed the product. And my next question is just a quick one. I think it's following the previous one. if you can tell us about a surprising traffic channel that you found this year. I know that for us it was the Google Plus. It was something that I haven't expected. Today we have over 1,000 visitors coming to Takipi every month from Google Plus. What is very unique about it is that unlike Twitter and Facebook, where you need to have lots of friends and followers, on Google Plus you can just enter communities. I work a lot in the Java community, for example. They have 80,000 members over there. I post something and then we get hundreds of entries to the blog just from there. So you don't need to work in advance and you don't have to have lots of followers in order to get the traffic.
So, surprising, I don't know if I'll call it surprising, but I think in marketing what you do is always like it's trial and error. You check all the time what's working better. Different things that we've done here are like kind of monthly newsletters or whatever. You have something very unique to share with your users, and it was very surprising to see that they also share it with their friends. So that was something very nice that worked out. Mutual campaigns that we did with other companies as well, and that was very nice. Another very interesting campaign that we did was toward Christmas. We actually donated to an organization in the States called Charity Water, and that was something that also worked out very well. And press keeps surprising me all the time. As Marina said before, you kind of have expectations. Like we were featured also on Wall Street Journal and Forbes, but the number one traffic that we got this year was when we were featured on the homepage of Yahoo News, which the Alexa ranking for that was number 4 in America. So that literally drove us like thousands of downloads, tens of thousands of downloads a day. So we were very lucky to have that, and that also, it's not only luck, as I mentioned before, it's something that you build up. So being on the Yahoo homepage the reason was that a few days before we were on Forbes, and there were a few other publications that spoke about 24Me, and it was something new that we launched and really didn't manage to get a lot of attention. And it was, also supported by a new website and a new version and lots of other stuff. So you build that toward being featured in one place. It never happens. I mean, you can't say, okay, I want to be there. It won't happen. You need to build that, gradually over the time. So,
more than 2 cents. I think that the biggest surprise, again, not a big surprise, but I guess most illogical that is that the more you talk about yourself and try to sell, the less you'll sell. The more you provide value, not about yourself, but about the industry, the more you'll sell. Everyone's talking about blogs, but too many companies fall into the trap of writing a blog about themselves. Now, no one's going to tell you that if you have an announcement to make, you shouldn't leverage your blog. It's just silly. But to write post after post after post about yourself and kind of shoving your message down people's throats is ineffective and spammy. Whereas writing sometimes analytical, but sometimes just, thought leadership posts about the industry, where you see the industry going, trends, analyzing what's next, just giving your expert opinion and kind of building your brand as an authority in your space actually sells more than trying to sell. It's a long-term kind of strategy that is not an easy thing for a CEO to say to an employee, go write a blog and don't talk about the company at all. That's not an easy thing to do, but if you're building a startup, you need to have that long-term vision, and the ROI that this will generate in the long term is significantly higher sales rate by talking about yourself. So yes, I hope about Google Plus. It's not on here. It's a tremendous asset that's a secret weapon in the social world. People don't realize, but I would say that the most important lesson I've learned is don't sell, just provide value and build your name as a thought leader.
I think I'm going to talk a little bit about P2P. Someone doesn't hear me? Okay. So basically, I think that if the first step that you need to take is really to where your audience are, because not everyone read either the New York Times or TechCrunch, and done both from Onavo and for other companies in the past. You need to find market your niche audience, and in some cases it can be on Quora, which is an excellent site for questions and answers, basically, and specifically if you have a product that is designed for early adopters, and you can really find great questions and write excellent answers over there. And as Hillel said, don't oversell yourself. Obviously, you identify with your real name and not someone who is not related to the company but talks about the company. It's not like a talkback, but you do need to bring value. The other thing I would say is really look inside at your current customers and see how you can get them to do more with your product. Either
It's like that, like you're singing, yeah, now it works. And if not, we'll use that again.
like this. So the second item is really to look inside at your current user base and understand what is their usage pattern, for instance. Back at Onavo, we looked, obviously what we did was part compression and part reporting. We provided users with basically a monthly look at what their data usage is. And obviously it's periodical, so we saw that there is a spike in usage whenever you get the bill from your cell phone company because you want to compare what's going on. And so we started doing some activities in the middle of the month, in the middle of those periods, to really get users back into opening our app. And that's something that I would advise anyone to look at, both internally and externally.
I think the most important thing is to really understand who your users are. Who are you actually marketing to? And when it comes to EatWith, our value proposition is good both for tourists and locals. And we had to find a way, how are we speaking to both crowds at the same channel? And it's very difficult, so we started picking different channels for those people. And what was surprising was that Meetup was very good for locals, people who want to gather around a common idea. And we got a lot of people coming from that. But then we said, okay, so where do you find the tourists? Tourists are on TripAdvisor, where they go and search for what they have, what they can do where they go to a place. And the funny thing was, like, as I said earlier, we have a lot of our traffic comes from word of mouth, and it's very important to leverage that. And as a marketplace, a peer-to-peer marketplace, we rely a lot on hosts. And what we started doing is to open profiles for some of our hosts in certain cities. And I think the most surprising and funny thing that happened to us was that if you look at Barcelona right now on TripAdvisor, you'll find that Marta's famous paella is above Sagrada Familia. Is the most important thing to do when you're in Barcelona. And on your next visit, you really need to go taste that paella. So TripAdvisor is a nice place as well.
So what was surprising for us was, so we have a personal finance app, and you'd think people would care about their personal finances all year round. And so we use Google's search tool to see when do people actually search for our competitors. Like, when are they really interested? So if you're just starting out and you're getting into a market, you find your biggest competitors and you see when are people most interested in looking for them. And so we saw that our peak was in January. So leading up to, makes sense, money, New Year's resolutions, January 1st, we all want to get skinny, we all want to look great, we all want to save money for a big vacation, big car, dreams. So in the beginning of December, we did a partnership with a few other apps that so all of us came to the theme of New Year's resolutions. So we partnered with other apps where we could pitch all of our users and say, fulfill your New Year's resolutions through these apps. So there was a fitness app, there was a financial app, there's a eating healthier app, etc. and that did really well.
Okay, so I want to ask you a bit about bloggers. I think that that is one of the main breakpoints of most entrepreneurs. When you send emails to TechCrunch and VentureBeat, and you go home and you have to wait for an answer, and usually you don't get one. And I know that I've waited countless nights refreshing my Gmail. It didn't help most of the time. And I want to ask you for one tip to reach out to bloggers. Hillel, you're most of the time on the other side when people approach you in order for you to write about them. So, all tips other than have an interesting story.
Okay, so basically I think I learned that over the time, and I think my advice overall, just consult with other people. I mean, go meet with people, with other marketers. I'm like a member of 2 other groups of marketing people, and we meet once a month and we share ideas. So that helps a lot. I mean, always try to expand your connections and network. As for approaching bloggers, I had a very interesting call like a month ago with someone that called me and asked, what's your advice? How should I launch my new product? We're going to be out in like 2 weeks or so, and what do you think? And there is no answer. I mean, there is no magic around that. It's maintaining relationship over the time, same thing as you're doing with your investors in a way. So the way I do it and the way I learned to do it is, first of all, you map the industry. You map your product, you watch your competitors, you read every single thing that was written about your competitors. So you kind of have an Excel divided to each and every one of the media outlets, and in each one of them there are like maybe 3 or 4 different reporters and bloggers that write about that specific industry. You can't just send an email to someone who's not writing on productivity or not writing about finance. It's just a waste of time for you and for them as well. So you map that, then you approach. One way is to say, okay, I read your interesting article about this product. What do you think about us? And just keep it short and put their relevant information. I think that Iris talked about that last year. It was a very interesting meetup as well. Meet with them in conferences. I always think that the best interaction that you have with bloggers is when you meet with them face to face. Once you have that face-to-face interaction, it's something much more, I don't know, they get to know you, they understand, they see the face behind the startup. It's not just a startup that's pitching them, there is a face behind that, and that's something very, very important. And for me, it worked really well. In each conference that I wear, I try to reach out to a few, like minimum 5 reporters, and you maintain the relationship with them. You update them. You don't approach them about each and every version that you're updating, but for major ones, you want to update them and give them time beforehand to get prepared, to read the materials, to try the product before, and that's it. So that was my advice for that.
You say meet them in person, and it helps. It also helps when you look like Demi Moore. Just saying. So the truth is, I think, obviously I agree with everything Liat said, but I definitely think, like all marketing, you don't need to do this when you need it. You need to do it before you need it. It's 100% relationships here. They need to know that you're not, another PR agency spamming them, because they get, thousands of these a day. And like you said, I'm on the other side as a blogger. I get thousands of these press releases a day, and I can tell you a story. A few years ago, I woke up one morning to, like every other day, hundreds of press releases, and they were all the same. Dear blogger, right? Template, totally not personalized, and right away, delete. But there was one press release that kind of caught my eye, and it was from a company in Israel called Twitterland. I don't know if you've heard of them. I didn't know they were Israeli, but the press release said, Dear Hillel, we follow you on Twitter, we enjoyed this article that you wrote, etc. And it was very, very personalized. Clearly they put a lot of effort into it. At which point I said to myself, I honestly don't even care what these guys do. I'm going to write about them. And so I did. And I tweeted it. And a big celebrity retweeted it. And an Arab sheikh in Saudi Arabia retweeted her. And their servers crashed. And they launched their company from one tweet. And it really happened, sincerely, 100% because they spent the extra 5 minutes personalizing that press release. I've been in touch with them since, and this is how they do marketing. This is how one should do marketing. It's very easy, kind of just flip. Tomorrow after launch, now I'll go and I'll pitch TechCrunch. But the reality is, if you want to be successful, with PR and in general with marketing, it's really about preparing yourself in advance and building those relationships. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't require very much effort. In reality, I mean, I've been reading TechCrunch for years, and I've been sending them typos, so they know me. And I've been writing blogs, and they read those blogs. And when I went with Zula to TechCrunch Disrupt 8 months ago, we were in the Startup Alley, which is basically like Hunger Games, like 80 startups ready to kill each other for that one spot on stage. And every other startup there had thousands of dollars of budget to get on stage, and we were told 2 weeks before that we're going to TechCrunch Disrupt, and we had zero budget to get on stage. And in reality, everyone was giving out fancy swag, and we were just sitting there demoing our app. At the end of the day, Mike Butcher came over to us and said, "Okay, you guys won. You were selected." And we literally we thought it was like a prank or something. Like, seriously? What ended up happening, this stays between us, is that the TechCrunch writers themselves, actually have a say, and they actually vote for the startup that gets on stage. And we were a startup that they knew because they've been reading my blogs for 7 years, and they know Jeff, and they know the other founders. And so for us, it wasn't, it's that one startup against 80 others. It's Hillel. We read his stuff. He's a friend. He's the one that sends us typos all the time. He's built a relationship. He's invested in our relationship. He's not just pitching. So, I mean, these are all big words, and sound very abstract, but in reality, it's really not. Just find the right guys, get on Twitter, engage with them. Don't sell. Just engage and talk like a human being, and just get your kind of avatar, your Twitter pic, and in their brain, and plant it in their brain, so that when the time comes and you're pitching, you're not cold pitching. Oh, it's that guy that I know from Twitter.
So I'll give you 2 tips, I think, to follow up on what both Liat and Hillel said. The first one is do research. I mean, if you're pitching, obviously you need to start way ahead. If you're launching next week, then pitching now is too late probably. You need to start the relationship, and it's a long-term thing. And also prepare, obviously, map the different blogs and outlets that you're reaching out to, and see who you're writing to. And you can search Twitter, Google+, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. If the guy is tweeting photos, family photos from a vacation, probably not a good idea to email him because you're not going to see it, and you need to wait for it. The other thing I'll suggest is, if you are traveling to conferences and presenting, then do some research beforehand. Get a press list of those that are attending the conference. I'm singing. I'm singing. So get a press list before and see who's attending, and understand what are they talking about, what areas they cover, what interests them. Obviously, for instance, back in February I was in Barcelona for the Mobile World Congress, and the first 2 days are packed with Samsung, HP, Sony, all the big ones that are doing presentations, are doing announcements, so your chance of catching someone by email is very slim. But there is the press area, there is the press room, there is the press zone, whatever it is, so you can just wait, literally, physically, be there or sneak in. You look like Demi Moore, so they'll let you in. You just stand outside, and whenever you have someone, I think I told it to some Eitan from UV, I told him anyone that comes out with a video camera, you grab him. And he did that, and he flew to China, and he's done amazing things ever since. And it's very simple, and it looks like silly, but that's us, we're Israeli chutzpah. So you just wait outside, you see someone with a camera, you grab him, you tell him your story, a good one, and that's it, on your way.
So I think that in addition to all these great tips, I think the thing that you also need to remember is that approaching a blogger that typically writes about a certain topic or area that they cover. So you need to make sure that your story relates to them. If I look at EatWith, I mean, we can talk travel, we can talk about food, we can talk about the sharing economy, and to every blogger that we approach, we tell the story in a way that is relevant to them and not just necessarily the general story of what EatWith is all about. The other thing, which I think is true with both bloggers and PR in general, is make sure you have like a piece of paper where you write facts about your company. Things that they find very interesting, not just about the company, but also about the industry in general. Do a little bit of the homework for them. I think this really helps to get their interest into the whole process.
So, like Iri said, many of us have sent off, dozens of emails to bloggers, and then you're praying and praying, and sometimes I hope I wake up with, a new clean email from someone that I emailed last night. And I can tell you one time that happened, and it was awesome. And the reason why it happened was because I took his blog post that he wrote, and I saw how our app expanded on a point that he made. And then I emailed him and said, you wrote about this, and I hyperlinked to it. And then I said, however, we think this because of this. Like, I just gave him a new thought. Would you be interested in writing about this, question mark? If so, please get in touch, something like that. So we reached out to someone, it was relevant, like everyone has been saying here, and then if we added a thought, you're all smart people, you all have something interesting to say about your industry, that's why you're building your great product. And so by sharing that with somebody, you bring a lot of value to them. So that's one way. Another way it also works is, what I do in like a very action-oriented way is, I make my target list of people that I want to go after for a launch. What I do is, I find writers from outlets that I want to go after who wrote about competitors in a very specific way that's going to be relevant to the launch. I find all their Twitter handles, I put them in a private list, and I stalk the crap out of them. And I respond as much as I can to them and have like honest exchanges. Like, I add value to what they tweet about, and then I'll share new information, and then they start following you. So it's kind of like a guy walks into a bar. You can't just go up to that girl and be like, hey, can I get your number? Because it's not going to work. You have to, play the game. So the game with bloggers is really, coming up and creating a conversation online and saying something interesting. And I can also tell you, like, even if you're launching tomorrow, I'm going to go off the bat that you're brilliant and you have amazing things to say. I can say that our founder, one of our co-founders, he's really brilliant. He's a technologist, and he reached out to bloggers at the last minute because he had something to say. They wrote about something, and he responded, and he's like, hey, can I show you something really great? And because he is not a PR professional, he is not a marketer, that says co-founder, they were interested. And the best advice I can offer to you is, I think there's this tendency when you have a beta app to protect it and don't show it to anyone because it's not perfect yet. But I think that's the time to bring in a blogger and let them influence your app and let them be a part of it. And I think you'll gain a lot from that.
No typos in your email pitches. Freaking ask an American or sort of British guy to look over your email. Don't send typos, seriously. I'm not kidding.
Send them to me.
One more thing to comment, and we're not very used to this social network that much in Israel, but Twitter is the number one place to attract the attention of bloggers. They're not really reading emails, not most of them, but they are reading their tweets. So try to follow them, try to see what are they talking about. If there is an interesting thread about your industry, you can get into it and write about your app as well. But Twitter is something that I use a lot, and it really helps.
Okay, so two other short questions about bloggers. Both of them are yes or no questions. And the first one is about intros. Do you think it's important to have an intro to the writer if you can get one, or should you just email the writer? Is it even possible to get to high-profile writers without an intro? And the second one that I'm not sure what the answer is how many times should you try? So let's say, for example, that if you're writing to 10 different bloggers and don't get a response, do you need to change the angle or to write to different blogs or give up, or maybe the number 15 or 20 blogger is going to answer?
So I answered the last one, never give up. You try all the time, never give up. Something will happen eventually. You just need to think. I mean, if you're writing the same email and nobody answers, so think about maybe you need to change it. Maybe it's too long. Maybe you don't have visuals. Maybe, change the tactics a bit, but never give up. Intros. So sitting next to me is someone that helped me a lot during this year, and I think that intros is something very, very important. From this group, I got like a few already. So it helps when, and this is also talking about the networking. It's very important to maintain your network with the right people, and they will help you when you need it. So I think with the big ones, with the big bloggers, it's good that you have an intro, a very warm intro of someone that knows you. It helps. For the other ones, you can try by yourself. I mean, if it's the co-founder, as BillGuard mentioned it right now, and they did it very nicely. So yeah, it helps when you're a co-founder approaching them. But for the big ones, if you can, use intros.
I do think that if you can build a relationship yourself, and you can build a relationship yourself, that's really the best way to go, and it's the most authentic, but that sometimes takes time. If someone has a good connection to a journalist, then sure. I think someone once said, VCs don't want to meet people or don't want to meet entrepreneurs, they want to be introduced to them. That's the way the world works. It's no different with the press. If someone has a good connection with the press, then definitely use that. The ideal situation is to build the relationship yourself. As for giving up, are you asking about how many times to send the pitch to the same blogger, or how many bloggers to send it to? Same blogger? Well, I can tell you that if you send it to a blogger and he doesn't respond, maybe ping him again and say, just confirming that I got it in a non-aggressive way, but I definitely would not. You're burning a bridge, basically. If you're driving them nuts, you're burning a bridge. Maybe they won't write about you this time, but maybe they'll write about you next time. And if you keep badgering, then that's not going to be very good. As for sending to a lot of bloggers, I don't know if there's a magic number, but definitely if you're not getting a response across the board, then you're doing something wrong. I wouldn't say give up, but definitely, tweak your pitch. I think that the magic word when it comes to pitching bloggers is ADD. So keep it short, like really, really, really short. I have an app that does XYZ. I would love to tell you about it. Are you open for a Skype call, or can I just send you a release? As far as I'm concerned, I get an email like that, I'll respond 99% of the time. If I get an email that's 1.5 miles long, I will never respond. And I think that all bloggers are pretty much like that. They're busy. They get a lot of pitches, so don't start writing a whole long composition. Keep it really short, straight to the point. And I think that's good, for yourself also, just to sharpen your pitch. If you can't, explain it in a sentence or two, then maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out why not. But definitely keep it short and tweak your pitch a lot. Definitely see what the responses are. If you're not getting any, then definitely you're doing something wrong. Figure it out.
So definitely I would email a blogger twice, give it a few days in between, because as Hillel and everyone else said, it's a relationship, and that specific pitch or that specific release doesn't worth burning up your entire future relationship. So you need to be really smart about how you write it, and as for how many, you just map it out and send to as many as you can, and the second magic word is A/B testing. So you need to, like Liat said, I think, try different variations, use photo, use a link, use a video. If you have it, it's always helpful. And really just try to as many people as you can, obviously that are related to what it is that your product is doing. Because if you're sending it to someone who doesn't even write about your industry, then there's no point. Even if you are best friends, he's not going to write about something that his site doesn't cover. So take that into consideration, unless you want him to just know about it and get an email you, no thank you. But that's useless.
I think, like any other thing, if whatever you write makes you sound more attractive, then it works better. And so, for example, if you already have someone that wrote about you in the past, maybe you want to add a quote from something that was written, or give them a little bit of information just for them to make them feel a bit more special with it. I would definitely try several times, not too many, and not at the same, like within a day or so. But I think it's really about the story that you write and what you're writing for them to get their interest.
I would say, like everyone has said, never give up. And I'd add to Iris's question, I would say yes, find connections. If you're going after legit people, they're busy and they don't know you, but they probably know the people that they know, and those can help you get there. So the ways that we tried to get connections was you go into LinkedIn, you plug in whatever company you're trying to get to, and then you look at who are your connections, you upgrade your LinkedIn account, and then you reach out to those people and ask them if they wouldn't mind introducing you. Another way that I got to bloggers, because I think also higher level bloggers, maybe you have a great pitch, but they receive so many emails, it's hard for them to hear from you and find you. So another way to do that is, I don't think people like Hillel would love this, but this is the Israeli way. But what you do is there are sites like about me, like about.me, and people on their About Me profiles have the option to email them. So I've reached out to bloggers where I'm sure if I would have emailed him, he never would have gotten back, but because I got to him through a different channel, we had a great exchange. So I'd suggest trying to go non-conventional routes. And now, yeah, I can't sing, I'm toned it. Anyway, the other thing I would suggest to you is if you want to read books about this, there's a book by Ryan Holiday. There's a book by, no? Okay. But,
No.
I was just gonna say, if you want a good book about this, like how to growth hack it, there's a book by Ryan Holiday, there's a couple, and he just talks about how to manipulate the media. Don't want to talk about it publicly, but he gives really great ideas as to how to get your coverage.
I want to add a few things, just as a blogger and as a startup. So, two things. LinkedIn is a great tool to reach people, to get to people, and to get them to respond back. I don't think that intros would work as good as if you approach the people yourselves. So if you have a conference, go just introduce yourself so they know who you are. Use chutzpah, it works. So one of the things that I did, Kara Switcher wouldn't answer me ever. So I just wrote some, I don't remember what I wrote on Twitter, and I mentioned her, and she got pissed on me, like, really? And I got an email back. And this is how I started the conversation, by getting on their nerves. I don't know. I do whatever is needed, whatever it works. And I think that intros would work less with bloggers because we really would prefer to know you. So skip the intros when it comes to bloggers, I think.
Hello. So, no, not everyone can pull that off. Not everyone's you, but I hear what you're saying. There's no such thing as bad, whatever, but be careful with that stuff. You don't want to burn bridges. But I just want to add one thing.
Burning bridges is about letting them know that you exist.
Right. Okay.
This is how I did
There's
it.
better ways to do that, but I hear what you're saying. I had a story last night, though, that literally last night I pitched TechCrunch on a story about mobile advertising. So first of all, I found the relevant guy, who covers mobile advertising, and I genuinely asked him the following question. I want to send you a story. I would love to know what story you would find interesting when it comes to this particular, event. In other words, the story was about growth in a certain vertical of mobile advertising, and I said, can we jump on a 3-minute call? I'll tell you the story, and you can tell me, well, I would like it if it had so-and-so. And so we did, jumped on the call, and he said, listen, it's a great story, but I need absolute numbers. You're talking percentages, give me absolute numbers, and it's a done deal. And so we did. So another lesson that I've learned is that you have to be prepared, just like in the startup world, to pivot, right? You accept feedback, and be willing to change your pitch a bit. You have a story, you think your story is X, but maybe TechCrunch or another blog will say to you, that's an interesting story, but it would be more interesting, why? Be prepared to do that. Obviously, you're not going to change your product, but if there's another spin the press would find interesting, leverage that. Don't be afraid to change.
Okay, so we'll move to Q&A. Questions? Questions?
I noticed most of you, or all of you, are, I would say, good content creative writers. Me personally, okay, so let's say that I'm not that good of a writer. Is there any places that I can outsource content writing? Not copying from other guys. Approach them, tell them I need a story about that, that. Here are some details, give you some, so I can implement or advices.
So,
No, I don't think you should outsource your content at all. And I think that one of the first resources you should have in your startup is somebody who specializes in content in terms of the actual writing, but the story that you're telling to the world needs to be part of your DNA, right? You can't pay somebody outside, in my opinion, you can't pay somebody, a blogger to just, and you'll tell them, this is the message you want to get, just write. No, it needs to be part of your DNA. You need to, have someone in the company write content. How much content, is up for debate, but the more the merrier. And I definitely don't think you should outsource the content that your company produces. I think that's a really bad idea.
I want to answer it as well. I think that the main reason I'm against outsourcing it is just because I spoke with so many startups that try to outsource the content and the results weren't good enough. And the secret is about finding different content that you can produce. It's not always about writing something interesting, it's about producing interesting content. So at my company we have most of the company is developers, and as you can assume most of them don't want to write and they can't write good content, and what we're doing is just creating very interesting content that we develop or we program it. And so one of our most successful posts were just about comparing between different AWS servers in different regions, and it was just a results, not a real post, but it was content marketing, and they were republished on VentureBeat, and we got tens of thousands of visits to the website, and it was maybe 2-3 days of one of our developers. So it's not about who can write the content, but about which kind of interesting content you can produce.
I'll tell you a story that happened to me a few years ago, a really cool story. When Instagram came out, there were probably tens of apps that did the exact same thing before Instagram, right? Hipstamatic and Big Please, etc., etc. There were tens of them. But I tried Instagram, and there were certain things about the UI and the UX that were just polished better, just better executed. Now, no one knew Instagram. It had just come out. No one heard of Instagram. Had I sat with an SEO expert that day and said, should I write a post about Instagram? What he would have done is, or he would have checked the search volume for the word Instagram, and he would have discovered that there's zero search volume. No one is searching for the word Instagram because no one heard of Instagram. And you would have told me, don't waste your time, don't waste your resources, don't write about Instagram. But I wrote about it because I was genuinely interested in the topic and I was passionate about the app. And so I wrote about it, and literally the next day I was #1 on Google for the word Instagram. But again, no one was searching for the word Instagram, so I was getting no traffic. But I was there on top. Fast forward a year, Instagram is psycho-viral, and I'm #1 on Google for the word Instagram. And I'm getting traffic 10, 20, 30,000 hits a day for a post a year old. Fast forward 3 years, and Zuckerberg buys Instagram for $1 billion. The search volume rocketed through the sky that day. And I got over 150,000 hits for a post 4 years old. The reason I got that traffic is not because I analyzed the search volume, but because I wrote good content, period.
Any more questions?
Hi. First of all, I understand why this place is called lool. Because behind there it's like chicken and roosters. Second, I wanted to ask you about the name of a startup. As someone who is working with newborn startups, they always hesitate if to pick up a cool name like Takipi, Google, Yahoo, or to find a clear name like like Waze or Get Taxi, etc.
My advice is to go with a generic name because you usually start with one idea and then you find yourself a couple of months later with a different one. So don't start with Get Taxi and then find yourself doing something like Waze. So that's why we chose, we started with the name Bugtail and like the tails of the bug, and then we decided that we're not sure where we're going to be in a year or two from now, and changed the name to Takipi, and they think it was a very good decision.
I agree. I would say also that take into account the domain, meaning don't call your company one thing and have a domain for another thing. And also take into account how easy it is to pronounce and how easy it is to spell. If you tell someone that your name is, Google, and there's 55 different kinds of spelling, you're just losing branding, right? You're losing that potential customer who might have, searched for your name or went to the domain and it wasn't you. Generally, domain is very, very important. One can debate whether you need .com or .me or .mobi or all these things, but make sure you have a relevant domain. Don't call your company one thing and have a domain completely different.
I would also go for the traditional method, but if you do go something that is not traditional, like Onavo, for instance, then have like funny ideas of what does Onavo mean, because Onavo is not really a name. It was just, I think, a domain that Guy and Roy, the founders, thought that it was cool, and the domain was available, .com, and from there we started to. We had how do you pronounce Onavo, and we have a bunch of guys pronouncing it, and we also had an MP3 file that says it. And what does Onavo mean? Because it sounds like Japanese and it's smart and stuff. But yeah, you need to keep it very simple at the end of the day because it's your brand. You need to eventually live with it and stay with it for a few years. So.
And have a good story behind the name, because people are going to ask you all the time, why are you called? For me, it's just the name of my dogs. So it's Taki and Kipi.
Hi. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So each one of you just spoke about his how to reach a huge amount of users, how to reach your goals when it comes to marketing. And obviously it's not work for one day or a week, it's much longer than that, but I'm interested. I'm not a marketer, but I was always interested. Do you believe that there is a shorter way? I think I can think of a few examples of companies that they reached a huge amount of users in a day. in the day of the launch, maybe. So, what do you think about this issue?
I would say that for me, marketing is just about finding the shortest ways. So it's always about looking for new challenge and to discover where the trendy place is. And I think that's where growth hacking is coming from. So it's not marketing in a traditional way of producing good content or positioning your app. It's more about finding the shortest ways to get to users. There's a great website called growthhackers.com. It's very similar to Reddit. People just post their different growth hacking techniques that they use. So it's a good place to start.
I just want to say something that sometimes you see a launch of a product from the outside and it seems like magic. They manage to be on 12 different blogs and, you know, everything get picked very beautiful and wow. And it's not like that. It means that they worked for a month toward that launch, not only for the PR and the press, also for, you know, building everything around it and the visuals, the website, videos, and all that stuff. So nothing really happens just like that. It's a lot of work involved. I agree that, you know, if you have shortcuts, go there. But you know, just from the outside, sometimes it looks very like easygoing. It's not.
So I far be it from me to disagree with these mega marketers. I'm nothing compared to them, but I completely disagree with what they just said. You want shortcuts? Hire a sales guy. Really. That is the difference between sales and marketing. Sales is short-term, marketing is long-term. Period. You want shortcuts? I don't think there are any. There's shortcuts, you know, that are, like we talked about before, to acquire customers. But if you want to market well and retain those customers, you should have to invest time. You know, I'll give you an example when it comes to social, right? Everyone always asks, how do I post in one place and distribute it across all the platforms? I want it on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, you know, Pinterest, Instagram. If you're doing that, you're an idiot. That's a shortcut, and it's ineffective, and it's spammy, and it will not get you very good results in the long term. So there are shortcuts, but I don't think you should spend even the smallest amount of resources on those shortcuts because they're not going to produce long-term results. Sales is in the short term. Marketing is long term.
You just need to have a budget, funding probably, and just value users. But as you said, you need to retain them. So that's the tough part. Shortcuts are always welcome and they're always available. But if you're looking for, that's the difference between organic and paid acquisition. Organic is the best users. Paid, I think everyone here will agree that probably less.
What I wanted to give as an example is for a shortcut, the only good ones that I can think of, they're more product shortcuts, meaning, for example, Airbnb really expanded word of mouth, which is marketing, by at the time at Airbnb, all of the people that had signed up, they were posting their listings, but they weren't getting enough traffic to their personal listings. Like if I had an Airbnb, if I were trying to rent out my place. So what Airbnb did was they developed a quick way for me to post my personal listing on Craigslist in a painless way, like just a few buttons, boom, it's out. And suddenly I, Marina, am getting all of this traffic to my personal listing, and that makes my Airbnb experience valuable. And then I go off and tell other people to do it. And I think there's like dev people have a definite way to do that. It's just thinking a little differently. And every example that I love and I think of it was really just providing extra value to the user, and it did the word of mouth.
Dropbox is another great example. I agree. Definitely, you know, in the product you can have shortcuts to increase virality, but the real marketing, campaign or effort has to be long term.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. You can do it like face to face, freestyle. Thank you guys. Thank you Iris. Thank you all. Thank you Yaniv and Michai.
Thank you, Moran.